You ask how deep is deep. I ask how deep do you like to get? Alright, so we're doing it. EKA and Grungy. Game number 8. Who could have foresaw this? An almost clear sweep by Grungy going 4-0 to open with and keeping Norse in reserve, with EKA taking the next 3 games, so EKA 1 game away from forcing his opponent into match point. Grungy going for the early outposts. This is a style I'm really familiar with. Feigning third barracks even, which EKA I don't think is aware of. So it doesn't really delay Grungy all that much. Like, look at how fast the bloody thing builds. It's going to be there in time for the Bronze Age anyway. So he's going to, you know, get these down, be ready to get dog training. Even going to do the second one rather than going for the longhouses. Good decision, I think. So Grungy, I think, is opening very scarily dog training. Actually, he's going to get the initial dogs first and get dog training out the second. So 50-50 there. With, like, you get the early aggression so he can look at sniping vills earlier before the 5th and 6th barracks go up. And it really means he's pressured, like, he can't be pressured to with the dogs this early. It's impossible to pressure Norse if you open like this. So there are other styles to Norse, and some of them actually, if you get that fast Great Hall, you can actually really overwhelm in Norse v Norse. But, you know, against the other civs, this sort of style I think is the preferred way to play, because it just locks out every other civ from being able to pressure you, except once the spear champ hits, in a sense. But by then, you'll have the racks count to be able to hold out for longer. It's going to have a tower, maybe even a second, so the dogs not getting a huge amount of value, but they are going to force EKA to juggle his villagers at least. And have to use some of these priestesses for healing instead of empowering. Well, it's costing Grungy nothing. Like, you've got all the bank in the world. You've got 100k resources, and dogs are the cheapest unit in the game. They're the fastest training, tied with the champ spears. And champ spears don't actually get a bonus multiplier damage against them, because dogs, they're not cavalry, they're huntable. But they do actually act as a pseudo spearman as well. They've got snare against all units. They've got bonus against cavalry. Only problem is they're just a little bit squishier. But while this is going on, Grungy's catching up in terms of units. Like, the spear spam is not on the way. Instead, it's going to be axemen. The dogs mean that the axemen can't really reach the throwing axemen. And then on top of that, disengaging becomes a pain in the arse. You're going to lose extra units you normally wouldn't, because the dogs tag the axemen, snare them, and then the throwing axemen can snipe them. So Grungy's playing this really tightly. EKA's doing what he can to not overextend here, which is great. Plenty of healing, so he's not missing any of his priestesses. He's even going to get healing empowerment here, which is great. 40% extra healing per second. It's just invaluable with a frontline against this sort of frontline, and with your sort of frontline that you've got here with lots of small units, very closely packed, a lot of damage going off. Units that don't have a huge amount of health, so you need lots of quick healing. And even conversions, if these priests of set can focus TAs at the back, that'd be really beneficial, because if they're just going to convert dogs, it's really wasteful. So it's a bit hard to make use of them, but the Egyptian player wants to get them out anyway, just because he's already got the building. It's a prerequisite. It gives him age 3, so it's a prerequisite to your late game, so you're going to have to get it anyway. Fortress is now in play. So one's finished up here for EKA. Grungy is getting his as well. And that is a really healthy throwing axeman count at 50. And they've got champ. Well, EKA, even in pop, but there's no dogs for him. So that's an extra 13 units on the field for Grungy. EKA's train time going to be slightly faster. And if he can get his age 4 down somewhere, I'm not sure where he's intending to fit it though. Temple of Set and Ra, but where's his Temple of Tar? He's never going to be able to get towards, oh no, here it is. I'm blind as a bat. I'm blind as a bat. He's already got age 4. Grungy's has only just kicked in now, but if EKA can get 3 or 4 Priests of Tar out, get Divine Production, not lose any of the Priests of Tar, and queue some more up, it can be over here, because Look at this, there's a lot of units to tag here, and as long as one of them gets converted, they all start popping off. And it becomes very hard to deal with until your opponent fully disengages, and Grungy's going to have to try and snipe the priests of Set down with anything he can. Dogs, towers, sneaking in a Zerker with the area damage. But in saying that, EKA has got a nice slow front line here, and he's starting to get the pop off here. A couple of units being converted. Only 2 of the throwing axemen though, so nothing major. I think the priest that must have started the conversion must have died, while there's others still converting. But Palintinon here versus Log Thrower. So the Palintinon slightly outranges the Log Thrower, but I think it does slightly less damage per shot. The Log Throwers will one-shot them. Oh, and it does go down thanks to a Berserker, so it's looking a bit tough for EKA. I mean, it has most of the game. Grungy's played some tidy Norse this game. Keeping Norse in reserve might be the way to go once you start making it in tiny, because right now EKA just doesn't seem to have an answer for the Berserker transition with the throwing axeman and the tower creeping from the Norse player. There's not even an armory or a great hall in play, which is unusual for either of those buildings to be missed, or both of them, because Norse really only need temper. You don't ever have to worry about range damage. All you're going to deal is melee and then possibly siege. So they've got the easiest use of the armory, no split damage. GG is called, so EKA taps out. It is 5-3, and that's the series, guys. What a series. Grungy able to stave off the reverse sweep, winning. Thank you for the follow, O Canada. So winning 5-3. Sorry, I've got to keep my voice down. I don't really want to wake my family up now. Grungy is able to do it. Goes through the grand final. Well played to both our players. EKA with a very valiant effort there. Coming back from 4-0 down to take it to